The cowboy waited for a mail-order bride, but identical twins stepped off the wagon. The sun hung low over the dusty plains, casting long shadows across the ranch. Jack Calloway stood by the weathered fence, his eyes scanning the horizon. He had been waiting for this day for months, since the moment the letter had arrived. A letter from Clara, the woman he had never met but had come to care for through her words. She had promised to come, to build a life with him on this lonely stretch of land. Jack's heart had been heavy with hope and loneliness for too long. He had heard stories about mail-order brides, women who came from far-off places seeking a new beginning just like him. And Clara's letter had felt like a promise, a lifeline in the harsh, unforgiving world of the frontier. He had imagined what it would be like to have someone by his side, to share the long days of hard work and the quiet nights around the fire. Jack had built this ranch alone, fighting against the storms, the wild animals, and the isolation. He had longed for someone to share it with, someone who would understand the solitude of a life on the edge of civilization. The train was due to arrive that afternoon. The town of New Horizons, a small settlement a few miles away, was the closest place to get supplies, but today it was the place where Clara was supposed to step off the wagon, ready to begin her new life with him. Jack had spent the morning getting things ready. He had washed his best shirt, combed his hair, and made sure the cabin was clean. He didn't know what to expect from Clara, if she would be like the woman in the letter, or if she would be different. But one thing was certain. She was coming, and Jack was ready. As the train whistle sounded in the distance, Jack's heart quickened. He stood at the edge of the platform, his boots shifting nervously on the wooden planks. He could see the wagon coming into view, the large wooden wheels kicking up dust as it rolled toward him. There was a group of people on the train, but Jack's eyes were fixed on the wagon. The wagon stopped with a creak and the door opened. Jack took a step forward, expecting to see the woman he had been waiting for. But instead, two figures stepped out of the wagon. They were identical twins. Jack blinked, confused. The two women, both tall, with long red hair and green eyes, looked at him with curious expressions. They were dressed simply, in dresses that had seen better days, but there was something about them, something that felt out of place. "Is one of you Clara?" Jack asked, his voice uncertain. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. The first woman, who was slightly taller than the other, smiled at him. "I'm Annabelle," she said, her voice soft but confident. "And this is Adelaide. We're here to take Clara's place." Jack's heart sank. "Take her place? What do you mean?" Annabelle stepped forward, her expression changing to one of concern. "Clara, something happened to her. She couldn't come, so we're here instead." Jack stared at them, trying to understand. He had been waiting for Clara, the woman he had dreamed of for so long, and now two strangers stood before him, claiming to be her replacements. "What happened to Clara?" Jack asked, his voice thick with confusion. Annabelle's face tightened, and she glanced at Adelaide before speaking again. "It's a long story, one that's hard to explain. Clara had to leave, and she sent us in her place. We have her letters, her memories, everything." Jack didn't know what to make of their words. The idea of two women showing up in place of the one he had been waiting for felt wrong, but at the same time, there was something about them that drew him in. They looked like Clara, talked like her, even smelled like her, but there was something else, a strange, quiet energy that made Jack uneasy. "Why didn't Clara write to me herself?" Jack asked. "Why didn't she explain?" Adelaide, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "She tried, but the circumstances made it impossible. It's complicated, but we're here now, and we intend to stay. We'll make sure you get the life you've been promised." Jack's mind was spinning. He had imagined this moment for so long, but now that it was happening, it didn't feel right. The women in front of him weren't what he had expected. He couldn't tell if they were telling the truth or if they were hiding something. He took a deep breath and tried to steady his nerves. "I don't know what to think. I was expecting Clara, not this." He gestured toward the twins, still not fully understanding what was happening. Annabelle's eyes softened, and she stepped closer to Jack. "We understand that this is difficult, but we're not here to deceive you. We're here because we have no other choice. You were meant to have Clara, and we're here to fulfill that promise." Jack's gaze shifted between the two women. They looked sincere, but there was an air of mystery about them. Why had Clara sent them in her place, and why hadn't she been able to come herself? After a long pause, Jack nodded slowly. "All right. If you're truly here to help, then we'll see how this goes." The twins exchanged a glance, and for a moment Jack thought he saw something flicker in their eyes. Something not quite human, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. They began walking toward the cabin, Jack following behind. As they walked, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but for now he had no choice but to trust them. He had hoped for a new beginning with Clara, and now, with the twins by his side, he had to find a way to make it work. The sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the land. Jack had waited so long for this moment, and now that it was here, he felt more uncertain than ever. But as he looked at the twins, he couldn't help but wonder, was this the life he had dreamed of, or had he just stepped into something much larger and more complicated than he could ever have imagined? The evening air was cool as Jack led Annabelle and Adelaide into his cabin. The twins, who had arrived as replacements for Clara, seemed oddly out of place in this quiet, rustic home. Jack had hoped for a fresh start, a new life with someone who would bring warmth and companionship. But instead, he found himself facing two women who had replaced the woman he had dreamed about. As they entered the cabin, Jack gestured to a small wooden table, offering them seats. The twins sat down across from him, their eyes watching him carefully. The silence between them was thick, and Jack could feel the weight of the conversation that was about to happen. "So you're saying Clara couldn't come, and you're here in her place?" Jack asked, trying to keep his voice steady. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. Annabelle, the more outspoken twin, nodded slowly. "Yes. Clara was supposed to be here, but something unexpected happened." She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "She couldn't come because of the work she was involved in." Jack frowned. "Work? What kind of work? You're telling me she just couldn't show up because of some job?" Adelaide, who had been quiet up until now, spoke softly. "It's more complicated than that, Jack. Clara wasn't just any woman. She was part of something bigger, a project that involved traveling to other places. Other worlds." Jack's eyes widened. "Other worlds?" He leaned forward, his confusion growing deeper. "What do you mean? Is this some kind of joke?" Annabelle exchanged a quick look with Adelaide before continuing. "No, Jack, it's not a joke. Clara wasn't just a mail-order bride. She was part of an experiment, a project designed to help humans colonize other planets." Jack's mind was spinning. He had heard rumors of space missions, of people traveling to other planets, but he had never imagined that Clara, the woman he had come to care for, was involved in something so out of this world. "This is insane," Jack muttered, rubbing his forehead. "You're telling me she's on some other planet right now?" "Not exactly," Adelaide replied, her voice serious. "Something went wrong during her mission. She got caught up in an incident, and now her memories are lost. She's not the same person she was when she left. The Clara you were waiting for isn't the woman you would have met today, but we're here because we've been sent to fulfill the promise she made. We've been trained to act like her, to help you move forward." His heart told him to trust the twins. They had the same eyes, the same smile as Clara, but his mind screamed that this was all wrong. He had spent years waiting for Clara, imagining the life they would build together. Now, two strangers were sitting in her place, saying they were here to help him. It didn't feel right, and Jack wasn't sure he could trust them. "I don't understand," Jack said, his voice shaking with frustration. "If you're really here to help, why didn't Clara tell me herself? Why didn't she write and explain all of this?" Annabelle shifted in her seat, her eyes downcast. "Clara wanted to, Jack, but things were out of her control? She couldn't reach you, couldn't explain. She was caught up in something that we can't fully explain. But we're here to make sure that the promise she made to you is kept." Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to take in everything they were saying. It all felt like a strange dream, something that didn't belong in the world he knew. He had worked hard for everything he had on this ranch. The land, the cattle, the long hours under the sun, and now it felt like everything was slipping away, replaced by a mystery that he couldn't solve. "You're saying Clara sent you because of what happened?" Jack said slowly. "But why didn't you just come right away? Why wait so long?" Adelaide leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "We couldn't. It wasn't safe. We had to make sure we were ready. And there's still a lot of danger out there, Jack. We're not just here to be your bride. We're here to protect you." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Protect me? From what?" Annabelle met his gaze, her green eyes serious. "There are forces out there that want what Clara had, what she was part of. The work she was involved in isn't just about colonizing planets. It's about something much more powerful. And they'll stop at nothing to get it." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you talking about? What kind of forces are you referring to?" Adelaide exchanged another glance with her sister before speaking again. "There's an organization, a group, that has been hunting for the people involved in the project Clara was a part of. They want what we have, what's been passed down through generations, and that's why we're here. We're here to keep you safe." Jack's head was spinning. He had never imagined anything like this. He had been expecting a simple life with Clara, someone to share his days with, to help him with the ranch, but now he found himself caught in something far beyond his understanding. "You're telling me I'm in danger?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Annabelle nodded slowly. "Yes, we're all in danger, Jack, and that's why we're here, to protect you, to make sure you don't fall into the hands of people who want to use you." Jack leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. The twins weren't what he had expected. They weren't the women he had dreamed of. But there was something about them, something that told him they were telling the truth. He didn't fully understand what was going on, but he knew one thing for sure. His life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. "All right," Jack said finally, his voice steady. "I don't know what's going on, but I'll trust you for now. But you've got to tell me everything. I need to know what I'm dealing with." Annabelle and Adelaide exchanged a look, and Jack could see the weight of the secrets they were holding. They had been sent to protect him, but there was so much more at stake than just a simple promise of marriage. As the night wore on, Jack realized that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but with the twins by his side, maybe, just maybe, he could face whatever lay ahead. The cowboy, once alone in the vast empty plains, now had two women by his side. But the danger was just beginning, and Jack had no idea what the future would bring. The days passed slowly, and Jack found himself torn between his growing feelings for the twins and the strange mystery that surrounded their arrival. Annabelle and Adelaide had settled into life at the ranch, helping with the chores, cooking meals, and taking care of things around the cabin. But no matter how much Jack tried to ignore it, something felt wrong. They looked like Clara, they spoke like Clara, but they weren't Clara. And Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the more he got to know them, the more complicated everything became. At first he tried to focus on the work, the endless tasks that came with maintaining the ranch. But every time he looked at the twins, something inside him stirred. Annabelle was easy to talk to, her laughter bright and her voice full of warmth. She had a way of making everything feel lighthearted, even when things were difficult. Adelaide, on the other hand, was quieter, more reserved. There was something about her that felt distant. Yet there was also a certain pull Jack felt toward her, a quiet strength that drew him in, even though he didn't fully understand it. The twins had explained their mission to him, but Jack still didn't fully grasp what it all meant. They were supposed to protect him from some dangerous group that was after the secrets Clara had been a part of. The more Jack thought about it, the more he realized that his life, once so simple and predictable, was now tangled up in something far bigger than he could ever have imagined. It was early one evening when Jack found himself alone with Annabelle in the barn. The air was cool and the smell of hay filled the space as they worked together to tend to the animals. Annabelle was humming a soft tune as she fed the horses, her red hair catching the dim light from the lantern. "Jack," Annabelle said suddenly, breaking the silence, "I know this isn't easy for you. I can see it in your eyes. You're confused. You're not sure what to think about us." Jack stopped what he was doing, his hand frozen mid-motion as he looked at her. He didn't know how to respond. He had been trying to ignore the emotions that were building inside him, but it was becoming harder each day. "I don't know what to think," Jack admitted, his voice low. "You two, well, you're not what I expected. I thought I was waiting for Clara, but now it feels like I'm living in someone else's story." Annabelle smiled gently, her eyes softening with understanding. "We're not Clara, Jack. We can't be, but we're here because we want to help you, and we're here because we care about you." Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had been feeling this pull toward her for days now, but hearing her say it out loud made everything more real. "I don't know if I can do this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to be with you two. I thought I was going to have a life with Clara. But now I'm not sure what to believe." Annabelle took a step closer to Jack, her hand gently touching his arm. "We understand, Jack. It's not easy. But you have to know something. The mission we were sent on, it's dangerous. It's bigger than us, bigger than you. And if we don't work together, it could destroy everything." Jack's eyes locked onto hers, his mind racing. "What do you mean? What is this mission, really?" Annabelle looked around nervously, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Clara was a part of a project, an experiment, really, something that could change everything. We were supposed to protect her, but things went wrong. There are people out there who will stop at nothing to get their hands on what she had, what we all have." "And that's why you're here?" "Yes," Annabelle replied, her voice steady but serious. "We're here to keep you safe. You're part of something bigger than just a mail-order bride arrangement. You're part of something that could change the future of humanity. The weight of her words hung in the air between them, and Jack felt the world around him shift. He had thought he was just a cowboy, living a simple life on his ranch. But now everything had changed. His life, the twins, and the mission they were part of, it was all intertwined in ways he didn't understand. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Jack said, his voice shaking with uncertainty. "You don't have to be ready," Annabelle said softly. "You just have to trust us. We're here to help, and we need you." Jack nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. But even as he agreed to help, he couldn't ignore the growing feelings inside him. Annabelle had said that they cared about him, but what about Adelaide? What about the quiet, distant twin who had a way of making his heart race every time she looked at him? Jack had always thought of himself as a simple man, someone who could live without distractions. But now, it seemed like the more he tried to fight his feelings, the stronger they became. That evening, after the chores were done and the animals were fed, Jack found himself sitting outside the cabin staring up at the stars. The night was calm, the only sound being the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. Annabelle and Adelaide had gone inside, but Jack couldn't bring himself to join them. He needed space to think, to figure out what he was feeling. As he sat there, lost in thought, Adelaide appeared at the doorway of the cabin. Her face was illuminated by the soft glow of the lantern, her expression unreadable. "Jack," she called softly, her voice carrying in the quiet night. "Are you all right?" Jack stood up and turned to face her. "I don't know if I am," he said honestly. "Everything's so complicated now. I thought I knew what my life was going to be, but now I don't know anymore." Adelaide walked toward him, her steps slow and deliberate. She stopped a few feet away, her green eyes locking onto his. "You're not alone, Jack. We're both here for you, and we'll help you figure this out. But you have to trust us. You have to trust that we're doing this for you, for your safety." Jack took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. "I don't know if I can trust anyone right now. I don't even know if I can trust myself." Adelaide's gaze softened, and for a moment Jack thought he saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a sadness maybe, or something deeper, but it was gone before he could be sure. "We're here because we care about you, Jack," Adelaide said, her voice quiet but firm, "and we're not leaving." "Not now. Not ever." Jack looked at her for a long moment, his heart racing. The words she spoke were simple, but there was a depth to them that Jack couldn't ignore. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. The morning sun was bright over the ranch, casting a golden glow on the land as Jack stood by the barn, lost in thought. He had spent the last few days wrestling with his emotions, trying to make sense of everything. The twins, Annabelle and Adelaide, had been by his side, helping with the chores, keeping the ranch running smoothly, but the more time Jack spent with them, the more questions he had. His life, once simple and predictable, had become a tangled web of mystery, uncertainty, and emotions he couldn't control. Jack had always considered himself a straightforward man. His days were spent working hard on the ranch, tending to the animals, and living a life that, while lonely, was comfortable. But now it felt as though the ground beneath him was shifting, and he couldn't get his bearings. He had expected a bride, someone to share his life with. Instead, he had gotten two women who were nothing like what he had imagined. They were connected to something much bigger, something that threatened to change everything he knew. It was a quiet morning when everything began to unravel. Jack had been sitting outside watching the horizon when Annabelle came up to him. Her face was serious, her usual smile replaced by an expression of concern. Jack immediately knew something was wrong. "Jack, we need to talk," Annabelle said, her voice steady but urgent. "It's time you know the whole truth." Jack felt a lump form in his throat. He had been expecting this moment, the moment when the twins would finally tell him everything. But now that it was here, he wasn't sure he was ready for what they were about to reveal. "I'm listening," Jack said, his voice quiet. Annabelle glanced around, as though making sure no one else could hear. "You've been asking questions, Jack, and we've been giving you answers, but we've been holding back. There's something you don't know, something that we didn't want to tell you until we were sure it was safe." Jack stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. "What is it? What's going on?" Annabelle took a deep breath and began speaking, her words slow and measured. Clara wasn't just a woman looking for a new life. She was part of the mission, an intergalactic project to help humans colonize new worlds. The project was meant to change everything. It was about finding new homes for people, new places where humanity could thrive, but there was something hidden in the project. Something dangerous. Jack's mind was spinning. Dangerous? What do you mean? Annabelle hesitated, her eyes looking far off, as if remembering something painful. There was an artifact, a powerful artifact that Clara was meant to protect. But it was stolen, and now there are people out there who want it. They'll do anything to get their hands on it, and that's why we're here. To stop them. Jack took a step back, his mind reeling. You're telling me that this isn't just about a mail-order bride? That there's some kind of artifact involved? Yes, Annabelle said. It's bigger than any of us. We were sent here to protect you, Jack. The artifact is hidden somewhere on your ranch. And if the wrong people find it, everything will change. The whole world could be at risk. Jack felt a cold chill run down his spine. He had spent his life on this ranch thinking it was just a simple piece of land. But now he was learning that it was tied to something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. I don't understand, Jack said, his voice trembling. Why me? Why this ranch? Annabelle's eyes met his, her expression serious. Clara's family has been protecting that artifact for generations. Your family's tied to it, Jack. Your ranch, it's where the artifact is hidden. It's why we had to come. You're in danger. We're all in danger. Jack stood there, stunned. His mind couldn't process what Annabelle was saying. This small piece of land, this ranch he had worked so hard to build, was connected to something ancient and powerful. And now, people were after it. After him. What do we do? Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. We keep you safe, Annabelle said firmly. We've been trained for this, Jack. We know what to do. But we need your help. You're the key. You have to trust us. He had trusted them before, but now the stakes were higher than ever. This wasn't just about building a life with a wife anymore. This was about something far bigger, and Jack wasn't sure if he was ready to face it. As the day wore on, Jack's thoughts were consumed by the conversation he had had with Annabelle. The ranch, once a simple place of work and solitude, had become a battleground, and Jack was caught in the middle of it all. That evening, after dinner, Jack found himself alone with Adelaide. She had been quieter than usual, but there was something in her eyes that told Jack she had something important to say. Jack, Adelaide said softly, her voice carrying a weight of sorrow. I need to tell you something about the mission.
About Clara. Jack looked at her, his heart heavy.
What is it? What do you know? Adelaide took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving his. Clara isn't who you think she is. She was part of the project, yes, but she was also changed. She was altered in ways that we can't fully explain. The project wasn't just about space. It was about something else, something we didn't understand at the time. Jack's chest tightened. What do you mean altered? What happened to her? When Clara was sent on the mission, they didn't tell her the full truth. They gave her memories, false ones, to make her believe she was a part of something noble. But the artifact, it has the power to change everything. And Clara, she was chosen because of what she could do with it. Jack's mind was spinning. He had thought of Clara as a simple woman, someone who had promised to come and start a life with him. But now, it seemed that she was part of something much larger, something dangerous. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Jack asked, his voice full of frustration. Why keep me in the dark? Adelaide's expression softened, and she stepped closer to him. We wanted to protect you, Jack. We didn't want to overwhelm you, but now we don't have a choice. The danger is real, and you need to know the truth. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to process everything they had told him. The woman he had been waiting for, the life he had imagined, had all been lies. He wasn't just a simple cowboy anymore. He was at the center of something much bigger. And now, the only question was how far he was willing to go to protect himself, the twins, and the ranch that had been his home. As Jack looked at Adelaide, he realized that there was no turning back. The past was gone, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear. The only way out of this mess was to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be.